Welcome to The Explainer. All right, let's get right into it. Today we're looking at a fascinating analysis, a deep dive into what a hypothetical Takaichi administration in Japan might look like come 2026. And the picture the experts are painting is, well, it's pretty intense. They see a nation standing at a major crossroads. So let's break down what that really means. You know how stories usually build up to the big conclusion? Well, we're going to flip that on its head. We're starting right at the end with the core takeaway from this entire analysis, and it's a heck of a conclusion. This idea of a strong, resurgent Japan, the analysis says it might just be an illusion. They describe it as this vulnerable castle, a grand vision that's actually built on two really shaky foundations: massive debt and increasing diplomatic isolation. This isn't just a wild guess, by the way. This is what they're calling a full-on structural risk assessment. So, how in the world did they get to such a dramatic conclusion? Let's walk through it. We'll start with that vulnerable castle idea, then look at the economic gamble they call Sononomics. After that, we'll cover the high-stakes diplomacy, the social divisions, a scary-sounding Takaichi shock, and finally, what the analysis calls Japan's inescapable choice.
Okay, first up, the vulnerable castle. Let's really dig into what this metaphor means, because it's at the heart of everything.
You know, the whole castle image is really deliberate. Think about it. A castle looks strong, imposing, powerful. But what this analysis is saying is that if you look closer, the foundations are just not solid. They're actually dangerously unstable. And literally everything, the economy, national security, you name it, is built on these two wobbly pillars: a mountain of government debt and growing diplomatic isolation. And the scary part? If just one of those pillars starts to crumble, the whole castle could come crashing down. It's a pretty powerful image, right?
All right, let's talk about the engine that's supposed to power this castle. It's an economic policy they've nicknamed Sononomics, and the way the source material describes it, it's like slamming your foot on the gas pedal and just hoping for the best, without really looking at the road ahead.
So what is Sononomics exactly? Well, at its core, it's pretty simple. Pump a ton of money into the economy. We're talking a massive 21 trillion yen stimulus. And this isn't just random spending either. It's meant to be targeted at key industries, plus it includes cash handouts directly to people. The whole goal is to jumpstart growth and make Japan a stronger, more self-reliant nation.
But, and this is a big but, the experts cited in the analysis say this plan comes with three huge, almost inevitable risks. Risk number one, you've got an economy that's already dealing with high prices. Pumping in all this cash is like, as they put it, adding fuel to the fire. You could get some really bad, out-of-control inflation. Risk number two, Japan has a serious labor shortage. So if the government starts pouring money into huge projects like semiconductors, where are they going to get the workers? Well, they'll pull them from other private businesses, essentially starving those companies of the talent and resources they need to survive. And finally, number three, this whole plan basically means throwing fiscal discipline out the window. And what happens then? Well, down the road, you're looking at almost certain massive tax hikes, not to build new things, but just to pay the interest on all that new debt.
Okay, so that's the economy. Now let's switch gears and look at diplomacy, where we see that same theme of taking big risks.
The analysis here points to what they call a really dangerous paradox. The strategy is to project strength, to be really tough, especially when it comes to Taiwan. And on the surface, that might look good. But here's the problem. That hard-line stance has apparently led Beijing to just stop talking. They've shut down the key lines of communication. And that's a huge deal, because real effective deterrence isn't just about showing you have military muscle and the will to use it. You also need communication. It's the guardrails that keep things from spinning out of control. By getting rid of that third piece, you create a situation where a small accident could spiral into a major conflict with no way to de-escalate.
So we've talked about the economy and foreign policy. Now let's bring it home and look at what's happening inside Japan itself. Because the analysis argues these big, bold reforms could actually end up splitting the country right down the middle. Okay, this table is super interesting because it shows how these policies don't really affect everyone the same way. It's definitely not a rising tide lifts all boats situation. Instead, what the analysis predicts is this kind of sorting of the country into three different futures. You'll have a few strategic hubs, think tech and defense centers, that will absolutely boom. But that boom creates a vacuum, sucking in young people and money from other general cities, leaving their small businesses to wither. And then you have the rural areas, where budget cuts could mean public services just shrink away, maybe even to the point where whole communities are at risk of disappearing. It really spells out a future of clear winners and clear losers.
And this divide isn't just about where you live, it's also about values. The analysis points to this really stark contrast in social priorities. On one hand, the focus is laser sharp on economic growth and national security.
The messaging is aimed squarely at the conservative base, promoting a very traditional idea of family. But the flip side of that coin is that things like social inclusivity and tolerance get pushed to the side, and that could end up alienating huge parts of the population. We're talking LGBTQ people, the growing number of people who live alone, women who are focused on their careers, basically anyone who doesn't fit neatly into that traditional box.
So you've got all these economic risks swirling around. The huge debt, the threat of inflation, the lack of fiscal discipline. What happens if it all boils over? Well, the source material lays out a potential crisis scenario, and they give it a name, the Takaichi shock.
And it's really important to understand this is not just your average dip in the stock market. Not at all. The Takaichi shock is defined as that terrifying moment when global markets completely lose faith in Japan's ability to pay its bills. Investors start dumping Japanese government bonds, and according to the sources, this is a scenario that the market is already looking out for, right around February of 2026. And this is how it could all go down. It's a chain reaction, a domino effect. Step 1, the market loses faith and investors start selling off Japanese bonds like crazy. Step 2, to stop the bleeding and attract new buyers, the government has to jack up interest rates, sky high. Step 3, because mortgages and business loans are tied to those government rates, they shoot up too, almost overnight. And that leads to step 4, this really scary thing called a black ink bankruptcy. That's when a company is actually profitable, they have sales, they have customers, but they go bankrupt anyway because they just can't afford the new massive interest payments on their debt. It's a nightmare scenario. Okay, that's the big picture. But let's bring this down to a human level, make it really personal. The sources say, just imagine an average family in Japan with a 40 million yen mortgage.
This is where the rubber really hits the road. For that family, a tiny-sounding 1% hike in interest rates isn't tiny at all. It could mean their monthly mortgage payment jumps by tens of thousands of yen, instantly. Any tax cut they got, any cash handout, poof, it's gone, and then some. This isn't some abstract problem for bankers on another planet. It's a direct hit to the kitchen table finances of regular people.
And that devastating possibility leads us to the final, really tough dilemma that this analysis lays out, what they call Japan's inescapable choice. At the very heart of Japan's economic problems, according to this analysis, you find these things called zombie companies. And there are a lot of them, around 210,000. So what are they? Basically, they're businesses that aren't really productive or profitable, but they've been kept on life support for years, thanks to super low interest rates. The problem is they're just tying up workers and money that could be going to new dynamic companies. And a sudden spike in interest rates, well, that would be the moment of reckoning for them. And this is the absolutely brutal choice Japan faces. On one hand, letting these zombie companies fail is like performing necessary surgery on the economy. In the long term, it's a good thing. It frees up people and money for more productive industries. It might even lead to higher wages for everybody. But the short-term pain is just staggering. We're talking about mass unemployment as all these firms suddenly collapse. We're talking about devastating the local towns that depend on them. It's a really painful medicine, and there's no guarantee the patient even survives the operation.
And it's not just an internal debate. The whole world is watching. This quote from an overseas hedge fund really puts it bluntly. They see Japan at a historic fork in the road. Path number 1 is total market chaos, like what happened in the UK under Liz Truss, short but incredibly destructive. Path number 2 is maybe the biggest, most painful overhaul of the economy since the end of World War II. What's clear is that, in their view, there's no easy middle path.
So, in the end, the entire analysis boils down to this one really powerful and pretty unsettling question. To secure Japan's future, do you have to take this drastic medicine? Do you have to risk financial collapse, split your society in two, and go through a world of short-term pain? Is this whole high-stakes gamble, this beautiful but vulnerable castle, actually worth the price of admission? According to this analysis, that is the question facing Japan in 2026.